Hi everybody, Stuart A. Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the very last few days of June 2018. It's hard to believe that half the year is over already. And one of the very interesting stories that I found on the news has to do with President Trump's son-in-law, Mr. Kushner.
Jared.
Which we don't know if he is a
he or a she.
Right. He really does look like a girl. I mean, seriously does.
Female.
And also sounds like one. Anyway, apparently, he is a senior advisor to the president, and he has been working with countries in the Middle East to create a peace plan. And so they said that the administration will very soon present its Israeli-Palestinian peace plan with or without input from Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. And in an interview which was published in the Arabic language Al-Quds newspaper, and Al-Quds is an Arabic euphemism for Jerusalem, Jared Kushner appealed to the Palestinians and criticized Abbas, who has ignored the Trump team and its pro-Israel bias, according to them. The interview came out after a week-long trip around the region by Kushner and his Mideast envoy, Jason Greenblatt. The team met with the leaders of Israel, Jordan, Qatar, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia to discuss the humanitarian situation in Gaza and the administration's proposal for a peace plan. And that is a very significant group of nations, by the way. And as I read more, you will understand why. Because all of these nations, well, for example, Jordan and Egypt already have diplomatic relations with Israel, and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the UAE also have kind of tentative connections to them. And according to this information, it remains unclear how the Trump administration would proceed with the peace plan without Palestinians cooperating. Well, if Saudi Arabia and Egypt pressure them and don't give them money anymore, I think that they would talk them into that. Kushner said the plan is, in quotes, almost done, but he didn't give any details, and he said that it would have a promise of economic prosperity for the Palestinians. And I think possibly, my opinion, what I would foresee, what it makes sense, is that there would be an economic unit tied to Israel and the Gulf states, very much like the EU is altogether. So they would be this like Middle Eastern union of countries that would help the Palestinians. And I didn't have the link yet, but there's information that Israel asked Cyprus if they would open a port to directly supply Gaza and the Palestinians.
And don't you think it's interesting that Prince William
He's in there. He's there right now.
Yeah, and they say that it's his first visit. I don't know how many years supposedly
ever
to pay. Well, but the first visit from Britain's royalty. Because
ever.
No, not
I
ever.
think ever.
No, because I read the article.
Oh, you did? You know how to read?
I do.
Oh.
And Prince Philip's mother is buried there in Israel.
Get out.
Yeah, in Bethlehem.
Well, that's Palestinian area, isn't it?
So that's one of the reasons why.
Why is she buried there?
Because it's a long story, which I read the article, but it's a long story. And Prince Philip was there once to visit his mother, so supposedly Prince William is there to pay homage to his mother. His mother supposedly went crazy. It's a very long story.
Like the rest of them.
And it also talked about his sisters married Nazis.
Yes, I read that.
Yeah, so it's a very long story, but supposedly William is there on behalf of his grandfather because his mother is buried in Israel.
Very strange. Well, it's not really Israel, it's Palestinian territory.
Yeah, but that's what they're calling it. So usually the royals, do not get involved in politics. So that's another reason why they're considering this so interesting.
Well, Kushner was actually a little antagonistic towards the Palestinian leadership of Abbas because he says he doubts that Abbas has the ability to make a deal, alleging that the Palestinian leadership is scared we will release our peace plan and the Palestinian will actually like it because it will offer them a better life. Well, that's the whole point of the peace plan, isn't it? And the global community is getting frustrated with the Palestinian leadership and not seeing many actions that are constructive towards achieving peace, and that's true. Even the Saudi prince said, stop it already and let's get this finished. Palestinian leaders have refused to meet with the Trump team since the president recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, which it has been for 3,000 years, so I don't know what their problem is with that. And he said, this is Kushner acting arrogantly. He said, if President Abbas is willing to come back to the table, we are ready to engage. If he's not, we will likely air the plan publicly. So, screw you, we're doing it with or without you.
But are you done with this story? Because I want to add something in there.
Just one little extra note, and that is during that same time period, Israel's military actually attacked the Gaza Strip because some of the Palestinians were launching arson and explosive balloons.
Yeah, but what I want to say
the Japanese did in World War II.
And this happens all the time. You would not believe how many people write into us saying, they feel bad because they're being helped by their parents, or they feel bad because, so their parents, somebody's making comments to their parents because they're helping each other, and they should be doing everything on their own. Well, what's going on here? Not only in British royalty, but here in the U.S., Trump's family is being helped by Trump. So on that level, the global handlers help each other. And they're telling everybody on this level not to help each other. So Kushner has no business over there doing these things any more than we probably could do it better. But the point being is they all help each other, and they're always telling you that or showing you that they're helping each other, but yet you don't pay attention to that. So if you need to be interdependent in your family, that really is where you need to be, because that's reflective of being dependent or interdependent with your soul family, with your source. So it's very interesting to follow what they do versus what they say.
Now, another interesting story that I found kind of humorous, but it really wasn't so humorous, is that you remember that Sarah Huckabee Sanders was thrown out of a restaurant in Virginia, Lexington, Virginia. Right. And now the restaurant is being slammed on Yelp and had its online menu hacked. And apparently local people have been throwing chicken poop at the walls of the restaurant. And Stephanie Wilkinson, the owner of the Red Hen in Lexington, asked the press secretary to leave the restaurant because she didn't agree with the way the president was handling things, and she feels whoever works for him is just as guilty. So when she found out that Sanders and her family were having a dinner there last week, she took a staff vote. So in other words, she's not even taking responsibility like it was my decision as no. It's like, no, I asked my staff and they wanted her. You're like, come on. So, and so she said, I'd like you to leave, to which Sanders replied, that's fine, I'll go. She was very,
But that's imprinting the people that this is what you can do.
So the restaurant's online menu has been hacked, and instead of saying menu, it says erectile dysfunction. And anyway, make a very long story short, some of the workers in the restaurant identify as being gay, while others prefer to remain non-political in the workspace. So then why are they voting for that? And they wouldn't have voted for that unless the owner came in and stirred up, because they were preparing their food.
Right, well, that's what I said. It's more about imprinting the people.
Yeah, and so, by the way, as of today, the owner had to resign from her business group because they didn't want her anymore, and probably they're going to either sell the restaurant or shut it down, and that's the end. She was a really stupid woman.
No, I disagree with
No,
all
I'm
of
going to
that.
tell you, there was no reason to do what she did. It was a publicity stunt, which backfired on her. The owner stirred up the workers, and she should not be in business if she has to discriminate on serving people if she doesn't agree with their political beliefs. So that means then if someone with a religious difference or someone with a other kind of difference comes in, she's going to say, well, I'm sorry, I can't serve you because I don't agree with you.
No, but you remember not too long ago, and I reported on the news, that there was a gay male couple that wanted to get a wedding cake
Yes, that's
done.
happened many times.
Yes, and so they took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and then the bakery was forced to make it. So honestly, if you don't want me in your establishment, I don't want to do business with you. They're trying to imprint the people and stir things up. That's what stories like this are about, and that's what they do.
But also red hen anger being afraid, heck, a chicken.
That's what I'm telling you.
That's I know what that's about, but the bottom line is she did the wrong thing, Neil.
No, the bottom line is they're imprinting people to do the wrong thing.
Well, speaking about chickens, Dr. Jack Horner, the famous paleontologist.
Yes, I've discussed it often at dinner time.
Yes, we always talk about that. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently he works with a Dr. Alan Grant and has the possibility of recreating dinosaurs. So what they're going to do is genetically engineer chickens to become dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. Because he said that they're busy making chicken dinosaurs that have teeth, and they're going to call them Chickenosaurus. He also explained that the birds are dinosaurs anyway, so we just need to fix them so they look more like a dinosaur. Makes sense to me. What could possibly go wrong? And the 4 major distinctions between birds and dinosaurs are that dinosaurs had long tails, arms, and hands, and through evolution, which really doesn't exist, they've lost their tails, their arms, and their hands that have turned into wings. And additionally, their whole snout has changed from velociraptor look to the beak of a bird. So what they're going to do is flick the right genetic switches in such a way that we'll get these ancestral characteristics back.
So we have Sanders, chicken,
so you can have fried dinosaur
wings. And wings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Coming up in the
I
near
think they're
future.
trying to imprint people with being a chicken.
Well, there's a whole chicken thing going. That's my whole point.
Yes.
Anyway, speaking of things to be concerned about, the Hawaiian volcano eruption on the Big Island will continue for months, experts say. And right now the USGS says, quote, there are no signs of slowing down right now. And the USGS also says that there's a longer-lived fissure eruption that is likely to last for months at a time, and that it could take years for Kilauea to completely drain its underground magma reservoirs. The USGS said, we're not exactly sure how much magma is stored beneath the summit, but the estimates are, and we are confident it is at least in excess of 100 times what's already come out. So what you see now times 100 more plus, that's still waiting to come out. And they're calling it a slow creeping lava flow with fissures opening that have covered almost 10 square miles and destroyed over 600 homes. And many thousands of Hawaiian residents have forced to flee their homes, which is this is considered to be the most devastating Hawaii volcano eruption to date. And since May 4th, there have been over 12,000 earthquakes on the island of Hawaii, and most of them, of course, centered near the Kilauea volcano. So, like I said last time, I warned everyone in Hawaii, this is just the beginning, so, I did my part. But, even more so, now there are fresh fears of Yellowstone supervolcano erupting after dormant geysers started to spew boiling water. That's a good time to make coffee over there. And that said that boiling water has exploded from a previously dormant geyser. Prior to this, it only has spat water 10 times in the last 30 years. Now it's spewing water. So there's a lot of hype about the supervolcano of Yellowstone and the potential for super eruption. But according to Wendy Stovall of the USGS, monitoring equipment does not show an imminent eruption. However, a super eruption would have devastating consequences with lava covering hundreds of miles and a giant ash cloud potentially triggering a nuclear winter, which I think we discussed last time. It's previously been estimated that millions of people would die during this stage due to food shortages and freezing weather. The last time Yellowstone erupted was 70,000 years ago. You might remember that, since you're an immortal vampire. Also, in the Pacific Ocean, guess what? Where we were, a dramatic video shows what they call an electrifying volcano eruption off the Galapagos Islands. Those This is interesting. A tour guide on a boat off the Galapagos Island. All these little people on their tour guide, all of a sudden a volcano, La Cumbre volcano, sort of erupting and flowing into the Pacific Ocean. That would have been exciting on your little boat tour.
I guess so.
Now, people in California, here I go again telling you something. Because what people are already calling the big one is an impending earthquake that is set to destroy most of the northwest region of the U.S., that's your homeland. And now this is where it gets serious. Northwest FEMA director Kenneth Murphy said that this natural disaster is set to kill around 13,000 people and injure another 2,500. I think it's a lot, times 100.
But notice the number.
What he just said.
Notice the number 13 again. 13,000.
Yeah. And he said the Cascadia Fault is an earthquake waiting to happen. And Michio Kaku, I love that name, Michio Kaku, a physicist and the professor at City College of New York, said it will happen. And the subduction is sliding of one plate under the other, and the Juan de Fuca oceanic tectonic plate is gradually sliding under the North American tectonic plate, which is what the continent is sitting on. So we're being pushed off of our plate.
We are.
The megaquake, they're calling it a megaquake, is going to have a domino effect, and is said to first happen by the entire zone giving way, not just some of it. The quake is predicted to last only 4 minutes, with a magnitude of 9.2. That's pretty big. When this happens, the northwest edge of the continent will drop as much as 6 feet and then rebound 30 to 100 feet west.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I don't want to be on top of that when it does it. Not only will this cause landslides, but some of this will happen beneath the ocean, which will cause an enormous displacement of water. The water will rise into a massive hill and have one side go towards Japan, and the other 700-foot tall liquid of water will rush towards the northwest coast and average come in 15 minutes after the earthquake begins. Now, this is the FEMA director. The FEMA director for the Northwest, Kenneth Murphy, said that everything west of I-5 will be, I quote, toast. The area will be completely unrecognizable after everything has subsided. FEMA predicts that 1 million people will be displaced, I think they'll be dead, after the event, and around 2.5 million people will be needing supplies of food and water and probably coffins. They estimate it will take 3 months before the area gets electricity back, I think never, and another 6 months to fix the major highways, and even up to a year to restore. So sounds like a place I want to live. That's your homeland.
I don't think people are going to be able to outrun any of that. That's what they always tell people, to go to high ground, right?
They didn't even mention the lahar, which will happen when the volcanoes start to go off and melt the glaciers at the top, and they run 300 miles an hour down towards Seattle.
Yeah, no.
Which Seattle is built on the remains of the last lahar, as you well know. So not only that, people, but I think it'll be a lot worse than that. I also have been noticing that the New Madrid fault line here in the Midwest has been moving a lot lately. And guess what?
What?
They've recently announced that a super volcano is forming under, guess where? You'll never imagine.
Not Michigan.
Well, we already have our own hot stuff going on, but super volcano is forming under Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts.
Now, how all of a sudden do they determine that?
Because they found hot spots deep under the ground, and they said, why is it hot there?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Lots of interesting news you have there for us.
Yeah, scary.
And I also have some very interesting news.
Yeah, more than mine.
Well, it's equal to, let's say.
Okay, we'll see.
Because, of course, what's the big hot spot going on now in the news right now is all the children being held of the illegal...
Separating the family.
Separating the family. So, that's what I want to focus on, because this is, as you know, I'm very much a family advocate.
You are.
I am. I tell you to go to your family, not away from your family.
You're everybody's mother.
I am. And so, the first thing that caught my eye, and this has been on the news over and over and over again, is President Trump said, you have to take the children away. That's a quote. And the reason I'm pointing this out to you is because every time they want to destroy a culture, they take the children away. They took the children away from the Waldensians. They took it away from the indigenous people.
But did he say why you have to take the children away? What's the reason?
The first thing, though, the imprinting is taking the children away. And now they want to see who's going to cry about that. Are you just going to let these children be taken away? But what's happening is the people here in the U.S., all the people are saying the children need to be reunited. So there's a whole little story here, scenario that I want to run through with you, because I think it's very telling for what is planned for people in the future. So first of all, keep that in mind. You have to take the children away, according to President Trump. Now, he says, when you prosecute the parents for coming in illegally, you have to take the children away. Now, you don't have to prosecute them, but then we're not prosecuting them for coming in illegally. So it's kind of a mix.
But didn't he also say that he just wants to send them back without prosecution?
No.
That's what I read a couple of days ago.
No, I've got the whole story here. So now what's interesting as well is he says that they have 2,000 children being separated from their families. Now, this number continues to change from every single story I've read. So I want you to pay attention. Because, again, that first sentence, you have to take the children away. So now they're saying 2,000 children are being separated from their families since April, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Then Trump falsely insisted that there are only two options for dealing with immigrants that come into the country illegally. He says totally open the borders or criminal prosecution. But under Bush and Obama, there was only civil cases, not criminal. Now they're being taken to a criminal. So that's totally bogus. And it says there are no U.S. laws requiring that the children of immigrants entering the country illegally be separated from their parents. So why are they doing that? And I'm telling you, there's a reason.
To discourage people from coming?
No, it's a way of destroying families, destroying cultures, programming the children, putting sleepers in there, taking children into human trafficking. There's a whole bunch of things going on here. And then the president complained that the crisis is causing, quote, unbelievably great taxpayer expense. So we can't take care of our homeless people, but later on someone talks about how many billions of dollars we have invested in this. It's amazing. Anyway, then we move along because this is an unfolding drama here in the U.S. that U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions quoted the Bible to defend separating the families. Now, what did he quote? Romans 13, the Apostle Paul, to obey the laws of the government because God has ordained the government for his purposes. Our policy that can result in short-term separations of families is not unusual or unjustified.
Wait, that was in the Bible.
Romans 13, quoted by U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions and White House spokeswoman, your friend Sarah Sanders, says, quote, it's very biblical to enforce the law. Now, I want to remind everybody...
Wait a minute, it doesn't say that in the Bible.
I'm telling you what he said. What this says.
It just says that the government is ordained by God. That's all.
And therefore, it's ordained to keep you. I mean, you can interpret
so whatever the
you
government
want,
said then is from God.
According to this.
Oh, I get it.
And it's Romans 13. Remember, you just read about 13,000. Now we have Romans 13.
Right.
And I also want to remind you that here in the U.S., we do have separation of church and state.
Kind of.
But now, the New World religion, the New World Order, is trying to bring these things back together again. And so here we have it. Now, Franklin Graham, who's son of the late Reverend Billy Graham, said that the separation policy was disgraceful. It's terrible to see families ripped apart, and I do not support this one bit. And even the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops also condemned the policy. Now,
but I have a question
yes.
or a statement.
What?
These people knew the risks coming here with their children.
Do they?
Okay, we're going to sneak across the border. That should end well.
And
take my little children with me. How much could I care about my child to put them through that?
These are impoverished, uneducated, poor people.
You're still a family. You know, the love of a parent for a child doesn't matter how rich or poor.
They
or
think
what your culture is.
They think that they're taking them into a better life.
Well, they're also putting them in grave danger, and they should have known that.
Well, they don't, because they're poor and they're uneducated.
What did they think? They'd just be like, you know, people walking them with flowers when they came
may
here?
think that, and who are the human traffickers down there who make money off of them may tell them those kind of stories as well.
This day and age with internet and phones and all that, they know what's going on.
You know what the internet is like in these impoverished countries. Even when we go to Europe, it's challenging to have good internet and news and so on and so forth. So no, absolutely not. These people do not know what they're getting into. Anyway, continuing on, I want to also tell you, because you were probably alive in 1855, since you're also an immortal vampire, when the Richmond Daily Dispatch newspaper wrote that hundreds of passages in the Bible prove that slavery has the divine sanction. And
I wrote about that.
Guess which verse they quoted?
What?
I just told you. If you were paying attention.
The same one that the...
Romans 13.
Ah. But what does that got to do with slavery? It doesn't say that.
I'm telling you that they're quoting Romans 13. It is a code, it is a trigger, it is a program.
I see.
And during the American Revolution, both patriots and those loyal to England invoked Romans 13. So at that time, the argument centered around whether the verse meant only just rulers were to obeyed versus upholding existing law and order. So again, Romans 13, they're saying biblical to enforce the law. This is being quoted by our politicians now.
But remember, the slave owners used to force the slaves to attend their little churches on Sunday in those days, and then read to them passages in the Bible that supported slavery, and made them say that there was a good thing they were slaves.
Yes, exactly. So we're going through these same things over and over. They use the same tricks, and like I said, supporting supporting taking away the family, the children from the family, and now what are they doing with these children? People are carrying on about a lot of things, but you know what? In the meantime, these children are being permanently damaged.
Of course they are.
They will never be the same from these experiences.
Correct, I agree with that.
Now, Peter Fonda suggested via Twitter that, quote, "We rip Baron Trump from his mother's arms and put him in a cage with pedophiles to see whether she will stand up against the giant a-hole she is married to."
Yeah, that would be a really good idea. He's brilliant. Yeah, I'm surprised he's not president.
Point being is, again, let's attack the children. Because if they attack it and it's okay for them to, then you can do it too. Monkey see, monkey do. They are imprinting people.
I think Jane needs to have a talk with
Now, the tweet has since been deleted, but it doesn't matter. Of course, it's all over the internet.
Already there.
Of course. Now, according to... let's see, a report that was done, the Office of Refugee Resettlement reported that at the end of 2017, 7,000 plus children were placed with sponsored individuals. Now, before they said we have 2,000, so continue to note this change in number. And of those 7,000 children who were placed with sponsored individuals, the agency did not know where almost 1,500 of them were.
They just lost them.
They lost them. And a documentary from the PBS program Frontline said that the federal government has actually released some of the minors to human traffickers. They have admitted that.
How could they do that?
So following along with our story, next we have Melania wearing this jacket to Texas.
Yeah, right.
Now, this is what people seem to miss, because this was the first headline that was printed, and then after that it was ignored. It said Melania Trump seems to wear a jacket to Texas with this message. They never had the back of her jacket totally open for people to read. They had other jackets open that said, "I don't really care, do you?" But they never actually showed the back of her actual jacket. So, of course, this was a lot of controversy, and even Trump, his social media people wrote that it refers to the fake news, which very well could be. So we don't know.
But she shouldn't have worn it going to what she was going to.
We don't know what it said.
I did see it. The jacket when she was walking up the steps.
No, they don't show it. No, you never ever see the complete back. You see it, kind of folded in, but you cannot read the words. I've looked at everything. You cannot. Now, remember, originally we started out with 2,000 children. Now...
And then it went to 7,000.
No, right. Now, the Pentagon says that they're going to provide space for 20,000 migrant children.
Just keeps getting bigger.
That's what I'm telling you. They are destroying people, families, cultures, and programming these people. These
or
young
they just
children.
expecting that amount.
No, well, they're saying this is going to be a temporary shelter. They're going to do it on military basis.
So I have another question. Why doesn't Mexico stop these people from going to the border knowing that these things can happen to them? Why isn't Mexico protecting their own people and other Central American people?
All know that the global handlers are all related to one another. They're the 13 ruling families, and they all make these decisions behind the scenes. Now, these four military bases which have been potentially identified are Little Rock Air Force Base in Arkansas and 3 bases in Texas: Dyess Air Force Base, Goodfellow Air Force Base, and Fort Bliss.
Fort Bliss. We were at Fort Bliss.
We were. Now, this is the other thing that's interesting to me. Because these children who would be housed on military bases are those who cross the border illegally by themselves. So again, how can these children get across the borders by themselves?
Well, who sent them by themselves?
Right.
Again, where are the parents?
Right. So, I mean...
Where is the government of Mexico?
The whole thing, to me, like I'm telling you, this is a global plan to do things that shouldn't be done. Now, of course, just when we need more reinforcement down there to help, so maybe things will get better, New York, Colorado, and Massachusetts have ended their cooperation with a White House initiative to deploy the National Guard to the U.S.-Mexico border. So now they're not sending people there to help. They're protesting the family separation policy.
Okay.
And then back to our good friend, Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He claims now they're going to use DNA tests to verify the relationships between children and adults.
Thousands of them, right?
Yeah.
That'll happen real fast.
And now...
Oh, brilliant.
The Department of Health and Human Services, now in this article, they say 12,000 children are in custody after entering the U.S. at the border, and 10,000 are unaccompanied minors.
So the bottom line is they have no idea.
It started with 2,000. I've been following this just in this last week. Every article is quoting different numbers. Sessions also said, we know for a fact that a lot of adults taking children along are not related to them. They could be muggers, they could be human traffickers. It's a very unhealthy, dangerous thing, and it needs to end. Now, here we go. This is what some people are saying, which you kind of said. The reality is if American parents put their kids through what these immigrant parents have done to their kids, they would be charged with child abuse.
And their children would be taken away from them.
Yes. So, I mean, we have a lot of things going on here. And we have a lot of people with a lot of emotions over these children.
I mean, you have to also say, those people crossing the border have to take responsibility for their own children.
Well,
that they put them through that.
They don't realize that.
And the Mexican government should take responsibility. They were like, okay, go ahead, go cross the border. Where's the Mexican army? Where's the Mexican civil defense?
We have heard nothing from the Mexican government, at least here in the U.S., talking about this situation.
I mean, it's not just the U.S. It's a lot of other countries.
That's right, and we hear about that here in the U.S. from our side, but like you said, then what's happening in the rest of the world to allow this to even happen? Now, here we go. Migrant children are being forced to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in shelters after authorities separate them from their parents.
Listen, they can't speak English.
Right.
How are they being forced to recite? This is a ridiculous story. That's not true.
It's all over. So, and then they let reporters in
I believe them. It's full of crap.
This might be, but that's what they're claiming. But my point is, that's a way of mind controlling these people.
It's like if you went to China and they say, we insist you repeat our national language, would you do it? You couldn't do it.
Well, they made me stand and open my mouth. I do my best.
You don't know how to pronounce the words or what the words are. It's ridiculous. The story is full of crap.
They're saying the same thing.
It's full of crap.
And then Canada also...
Oh, Canada, that's a good one. Yeah,
detains
they never
children.
lie.
But they're claiming that only 151 minors were detained in Canada, and here for an average of, guess how many days?
Wait, from where?
They don't say.
Because you can't get from Mexico to Canada
they just say
without
minors,
crossing the U.S.
Migrant children. But I'm telling you, how many days do you think they're being held on the average?
Well, let's see. That young lady that was jogging across the border from Canada accidentally has been detained for 2 weeks.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you that average is 13 days. So that's our number, 13. So 2 weeks, that's like 13 days. It's close.
So why would the Americans hold an innocent French citizen who was jogging and didn't unmark the border and then arrest her and hold her for 2 weeks? Yeah. Why?
Now... supposedly when these reporters visited, it's called Casa Padre. Now this one holds 1,500 immigrant boys. So I guess the other 500, wherever they originally started with, are girls. But it said that it's a secretive shelter. It used to be a Walmart. Surprise, surprise. Right?
A lot of bad things happen in Walmart.
Yeah. And it's being run by a Texas-based company called Southwest Key. It's a non-profit under a federal contract. But guess what? Guess how much money these people are making? The founder of this person, his name is Juan Sanchez, in 2015 was making almost $800,000 per year.
Wow.
By 2016, it was $1.5 million.
From creating the shelter?
Yeah. The organization itself has received more than $1.1 billion to shelter unaccompanied minors since 2014.
Wow, that's a good business.
So they're making money. Plus, this guy's wife says making almost $300,000 a year helping.
My goodness.
So there's lots of weirdness going on here, and I'm telling you, there's a lot more behind the scenes, and you've got to keep your eyes open.
And whatever you see on CNN and Fox News is a whole bunch of crap.
But like, I think a big question, like Stuart brought up, is where is the Mexican government?
Where's the Guatemalan government? Where's the El Salvadoran government? People just go and leave. They have to cross their borders to get to Mexico. Who's stopping them there?
So what's going on here? It's a lot more than what they're telling you, so don't just be distracted. Take a look at behind the scenes to see what's really going on.
It's just a bunch of crap.
And then Trump, just today, urged Republicans to pass a major immigration bill days after telling them not to pass the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So he says House Republicans should pass the strong but fair immigration bill known as Good Latte 2 in their afternoon vote today, even though the Democrats won't let it pass in the Senate.
It's called Good Latte?
Yeah, after the person who wrote it. His name was Good Latte.
Oh.
Passage will show that we want strong borders and security while the Democrats want open borders, which equals crime. So anyway,
because it was never crime before, only now that the borders
So
were...
this is a continuing saga, but as I said, there's a reason the children are being damaged in the meantime, and a lot of bad things are happening out there, and you can scream and cry all you want because they want to see how you would react.
That's what it is.
If they came for your children or your neighbor's children. What does this sound like? Sounds like a replication of what happened in Nazi Germany when they came for everybody else and nobody else stood up. Well, now there's an outcry, but even though there's an outcry, it doesn't matter. Those children are being damaged. So, moving on to my next subject. Last week, President Trump announced that he is going to create a new space force.
Oh, yeah, I heard about
as
that.
an independent service branch aimed at ensuring American supremacy in space.
Right, and the Russians were not happy about that.
He's going to return to the moon, eventually send a manned mission that would reach Mars.
Is he personally going to go to the moon?
And says he does not want China and Russia and other countries leading us. He's going to reclaim America's heritage as the world's greatest spacefaring nation.
Really?
And he said the essence of the American character is to explore new horizons and to tame new frontiers.
And to boldly go where no Trump has gone before.
Yeah, and this will be a sixth branch of the U.S. Armed Forces.
Guess what? Here's a secret. It already exists.
We must have American dominance in space. We are going to have the Air Force, and we are going to have the Space Force, separate but equal, is what he says.
I think he actually meant Domino's Pizza. We need Domino's Pizza in space.
And then we have also talked about, on and off, about revolution here in the U.S. And this kind of was one of those small stories that maybe might be easy to overlook, but I think there's a reason it's out there. And you may have seen this one. Spencer Rapone, who is a West Point graduate, wrote "Communism Will Win" during his graduation ceremony in 2016 from West Point.
He hasn't been reading the news, has he?
Apparently, he was slapped with a reprimand for conduct unbecoming an officer and was given a less than honorable discharge.
Because he likes the communists?
But I'm surprised they didn't put him in jail for treason or something, because he goes on to say, this is a quote from him, he's 26 years old, quote, "I consider myself a revolutionary socialist. I would encourage all soldiers who have a conscience to lay down their arms and join me and so many others who are willing to stop serving the agents of imperialism and join us in a revolutionary movement."
Sounds like my family.
Now, I'm saying I'm really surprised that this man is allowed to walk free.
First of all, it's not illegal to be a communist in the United States.
Yeah, but if you're in
and
uniform...
there are even politically people running for office who are communists.
But if you're in uniform and you're trained by the U.S. government and you are speaking against your superiors and your commanders-in-chief...
Well, then why was he in the army?
That's a good point, isn't it? But I thought it was interesting because if people like him are out there, it's like, who else is out there that we're not hearing about doing such things? And then the Philippines. This was also
one of my favorite countries.
An interesting article. Duterte. He has vowed to give free guns to members of the public as long as they promise to use them to fight drugs and crimes.
Yeah.
He wants to arm 42,000 community leaders known as barangay captains after he consulted supposedly with the police and intelligence agencies.
Right. With intelligence in the Philippines? No.
He wants the barangays to be provided with the same legal protection as soldiers or police and that they will never go to jail. So,
maybe we should move to the Philippines.
So I think that's very interesting.
I never had any good time there, ever.
So my feeling is this. You need to take care of yourself. So, here we have Hyperspace Plus. Remember, I've told you about this one before. Healing Archetypes and Symbols. You can be your own teacher and help yourself. 10,099 daily affirmations for self-change. I can fit all 3 of these in one envelope for one price. So this is a great set to have. If you are interested in history, of course we have our September Spectacular coming up, which we are going to have a lot of more information.
Right.
But for what we've already got, Blue Blood, True Blood is great, as well as True World History, Humanities Saga. Programming, deprogramming. A lot of programmed people running around out there that I'm sorry you don't know you are programmed, so time to figure it out and fix it. True Reality of Sexuality and 13 Cubed. Those are definitely books you want to get. Now, these books actually can fit, believe it or not, all of these in one envelope.
Wow.
Stuart says, okay,
If they would only listen.
The Hyperspace Helper. These are great books for gifts and to share because they're not too deep, but deep enough, filled with exercises to begin your journey. And I finally got the 4th Little Fluff Sin, so now I have the set of 4. This last one is called Protection. And I'm also telling you, if English is not your first language, these are really great books to get yourself started on some fundamentals. So we have archetypes, we have chakras, and we have energy fields or auras. So this is a great also series. We have Decoding Your Life, Universal Law. Remember what I tell you. The global handlers use universal law to bring society down. We teach you universal law so you can be your own teacher and elevate yourself and move on and get yourself out of the system. White Owl Legends, if you're interested in Native American information, this is really great. Came from Chief White Owl many, many, many decades ago and was interpreted by Stuart. So it's a fascinating read if you're interested in Native American White Owl legends. So September is our class.
Right, and also in September we're going to start webinars again, correct?
Probably after the class.
But like end of September.
Yes, and we're right now creating the subject matter. So we do, and on the member side, if you're a member, we do have the series on Decoding Your Life. Excellent, that's part of your membership. So take advantage of what you're paying for, less than $1 a day.
And as I have mentioned, I have not formally scheduled anything for the rest of the year because I don't want to go anywhere. But, as you know, because I said that, now I have been asked to come back to Tampa, Istanbul, and Quito. I don't know when that will be, probably October. I also have the conference at the end of October in Albuquerque. Then there's a January class, and hopefully, I've had several radio shows this week. Maybe you've listened. You should listen to them or go on archive.
Now, or pay attention. Be sure you like our Facebook page. We do give you a discount on products and services if that you like the Facebook page, and that's where we post most of the things that are going on. Both of our Facebook pages are basically to capacity, so like the Facebook page if you can, the expansions one. And also we're already looking at summer 2019.
We are?
We are because people want to...
I can't think ahead like that.
Well, we have to.
We have to get through 2018.
People want to go back to Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Walk the Waldensian paths.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Why?
Because the last time I mentioned that we may combine with either Iceland or Armenia.
Right.
But now I've gotten an offer to combine it with Bulgaria, which actually is more appropriate to combine with the Waldensians because of the Bogomil people, whose Bulgaria was named after them, actually.
So we have a lot of interesting information. We may do 2 trips next summer because we actually have also a lot of interest in the Iceland trip as well. So we're working on those things always. So, and please, get a membership on the site. It's the best way to keep in touch with us because we are on there every single day as long as we're in town and around the country. And the memberships are like really the best investment that you could possibly do in yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else?
Probably. You yell at me all the time, but there are new books coming out, which I'm anxiously waiting for the medical one.
I'll keep being anxious then.
Because it's been like 10 years.
Yeah.
Seriously, 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'm done.
Good. So you won't say about that anymore until it's actually ready to come
next week.
Because you're boring them now.
I don't care.
So, anyway, so we will see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.